and a lot of turtle effigies and small cairns, just a few rocks like this, all on that rim.
Yeah.
But you can only find them by walking or horseback.
Yeah.
Like you won't be able to even find them. You just won't see them in a car.
Yeah.
You really have to.
Yeah. No, that's for sure.
And then I know Blair came back, even 8 years after that.
Yeah.
With somebody from the Ministry of the Culture Ministry, and they were also looking and looking for some of the stuff that we had found originally.
Yeah.
There's also random things, and Blair had expressed and told stories about how the Badlands in general are quite sacred in these spots. And we noticed over the years some people would come in and build more modern rings in some areas, but we don't know who did that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we would find a horse skull or a skull of a bison in the center of the ring.
Right.
And that was just in that land. How many square miles is the Badlands going that way, would you say?
Well, the total is 82 square.
Right.
But in terms of distance from here, got me.
Probably about 2 or 3 sections of land of just pure Badlands.
Oh, really?
And that's where we had found the horse skulls.
Yeah.
More modern.
Yeah.
The ones on the north rim are declared to be very, very old.
Okay.
So the Napi that we're going to, Narcissus would say hundreds and hundreds or more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah. So I just had the fortunate time of just being told to take people up there because they didn't know.
Yeah. So
the turtle effigies that I thought were remnants of teepee rings, and other people would assume that. We were corrected, and we said no. These were probably originally turtle effigies with the heartstone in the middle and a head.
Oh yeah.
Nothing to do with teepee.
Yeah.
And then once that kind of was like, oh, that makes total sense. And there's actually quite a lot of the remains of what I believe it's what Narcissus brought in elders that are these. Is this old camps or is this turtle effigy? And I remember the older of the two that he had brought. I'm sorry I forget their names. Would almost constantly say this was another turtle.
Yeah.
What would the size be, Andrew?
Oh, probably from
really?
where we're standing. And hopefully we'll find one today.
Yeah.
I found them before, but I used to go on horseback, and they're so easy to see. I just, there's one. Walking, I find it more difficult.
Yeah.
Being higher, it's a lot easier. So let's get going.
Okay.
Our goal is to try to find a Napi.
Okay.
And then from there, if we walk around, there's a few other ones. Hopefully, it's still there.
Okay.
So.
In September, we took a trip to the Alberta Dinosaur Provincial Park, located northeast of the community Brooks, Alberta. The Dinosaur Provincial Park is right in the heart of the Badlands, along the Red Deer River, also known as Elk River, to the Siksikaitsitapi. As you heard earlier by the Dinosaur Provincial Park Manager, Andrew Hunt, there are several effigies and landmarkers left by ancient Blackfoot that have been found throughout the Badlands area. We embarked on a journey with him to try and find some of these places. We had to exit the park and travel west, then north, to cross the Red Deer River so we can approach the park from the north. To gain access to the park and the bank, we had to go through privately owned land. Fortunately for us, Andrew already had a working relationship established with the local landowners. This gave us easy access to cross these private fields and come back onto the provincial park from the north. We came to our first site. These rocks were scattered about in a circular formation. Andrew had previously mentioned that this was originally thought to be remnants of a teepee ring. However, Andrew had stated that this was later deemed a turtle effigy by the Blackfoot elders that have come to view it later on. This footage is from early fall, so the grass is still relatively tall. Early springtime, when it is dry, is a better time as it allows the rocks to stand out better because the grass is much shorter. Additionally, the formation may be seen better with a view from higher above ground. Andrew is here pointing out where the heartstone of the turtle is. The spirit's beadwork of the stones and the native grass tells us that this is as close to as untouched as there is in our modern day. There is no visible vandalism, but grazing cattle do have access, though it does not appear that they come out this way often. Over the years, moisture and wind has helped cover these rocks, and this is what is still visible. To the southwest of us is the bank of the river valley. From the bank to the river is about 800 meters. Here you see Inaxipitaki pointing out the contours of the turtle shell. These limbs aren't clearly defined at the time of our visit. Andrew had mentioned that these effigies can be easily missed if you are just driving by, so keen observation skills and knowledge of the area is key for finding these formations. As with the large turtle effigy in West Lethbridge, Alberta, this one is also on the bank beside a river valley. According to our guide, there are possibly several more turtle effigies in the Badland area. It is recommended that these sites be visited during dry days. Any moisture, such as rain or snow, can make the road getting there very muddy and soft and can destroy the top layer of the ground. We are currently about a 40-minute drive away from the Alberta Dinosaur Provincial Park Visitor Center, where we rendezvoused with Andrew and Tara. On our journey, we primarily set out to find the Napi Effigy. There are various Napi Effigies located throughout Blackfoot territory. It is not a site or part of the park that our guide visits often, so there was some searching involved to find the exact location. Along our journey, we came to this particular effigy first. The Napi Effigy we will eventually visit appears as though Napi himself was tired, so he laid down to rest, and upon his departure, he left the rock formation. The footage you are viewing this now is shot with a 4K 1080p digital camera recorder. There is also footage shot with an Apple iPhone XR as a backup. I would like to remind our viewers that this footage is captured by amateurs and is subject to the kind of mistakes that beginners in this field would make. Traditional knowledge passed down from generation to generation gives us the location of these sites. Our guide, as he stated, was fortunate enough to view these sites with older knowledge keepers who have mostly since passed on. Summertime, at the height of tourist season, Mr. Andrew Hunt and his crew get pretty busy, so scheduling may be difficult. Just another reason why dry springtime or mid-autumn are the optimal times to book a viewing. As noted by Shirley Crowshoe, Misaminiscum. These effigies, particularly the Napi Effig, could also be used as a territorial marker to warn oncoming neighboring peoples that they are now on Blackfoot territory. At the time of creating this video, we were unable to find an exact reason or reasons why ancient Blackfoot made so many turtle effigies such as this one. Further research with Blackfoot traditional knowledge keepers is needed. It did take our crew some time before we were fully able to visualize the effigy from so close to the ground. Upon finding the Napi Effigy, our crew placed an offering and thanked Creator for allowing us to find this effigy and take the knowledge from the land. We made a point to not leave any synthetic substance, such as plastic or metal, to pollute the site. The strong wind this particular day rendered the majority of the audio component of our original recording unusable. Because of the distance from the river, any major roadway or railway, the vegetation and ecological makeup in this particular area has practically remained unchanged for some time. When visiting these sites, it is also key to remember that a majority of the path is off-road. So make sure to use such a vehicle that can safely travel off-road. Additionally, these sites are significantly distant from the nearest gravel road. This means that anybody attempting to reach these effigies via hiking is subject to a long journey. Tara, one of our guides, is giving us a walkthrough for what is believed to be a thunderbird. This effigy is further into the prairie to the north than the turtle effigy, so that we did not want to risk driving over anything. Our audio of Tara giving us a description has been cut because of the overbearing wind. Andrew had stated that he was told by Narcissus Blood that this rock formation could possibly be a thunderbird. It did not have a distinct circular pattern that the others have had. Here she shows us where the head is. There's a cluster of rocks and its heartstone. The wings then come out on both sides. The grass is still very thick and overgrown on some of the rocks. It would be interesting to see in the spring when the grass is short and green to give the rocks more contrast against the background. era is once again demonstrating just how high the grass is around the hearthstone. Here you have an up-close visual of what she was describing. Unfortunately, we were unable to get an up-close, high vantage point view of this effigy to properly illustrate the shape of the thunderbird. We have come across another turtle effigy. This one is more distinct in its appearance, as the circular contour of the turtle shell stand out. The hearthstone is also visible near the center. These limbs can be seen slightly protruding from the circular shape of the shell. One of these protrusions is the head, with the tail lying on the opposite end. This turtle effigy, as you can see, is approximately 2 to 3 meters in diameter. You can see the view of the badlands as our camera crew pans across the river valley. One of the key features of the badlands is the hoodoos, known as people Matapiks in Blackfoot. It is said that the area has a spiritual presence, with the hoodoos appearing as people. The deep canyons and narrow ridges were used as a method to corral and hunt buffalo by the Blackfoot people. This is why today one could occasionally find arrowheads, buffalo stones, and the Iniscum, the Buffalo Rock, in select locations. Today, the area is mostly synonymous with dinosaur fossils rather than the Blackfoot people, despite the oral stories and physical evidence of the 60 gates to be within the area. Our guide told us a story of Happy Jack's cabin. There was a short period of time when we waited for Andrew to return from scouting the path ahead. This gave us an opportunity to take in the scenery below. At this point, we noticed a lonely cabin in the river valley. Apparently, it is still privately owned land within the provincial park. There was a gentleman some years ago, possibly more than a century, that moved here from southern USA to find a life of solitude and avoid persecution as he married an African American lady. He bought this small acreage by the river, and the cabin had remained relatively intact away from the extreme elements and human industry.
Napi's story, The Buffalo Laugh. After his adventures with the fire leggings, Napi, who was always hungry, decided to go hunting. He took his younger brother, Kit Fox, Sinupa, with him. They searched along the Red Deer River, which we know is Elk River, Bunogasa, where they saw no game. So they moved to the Little Bow River. For several days, they killed nothing. Napi was beginning to get desperate. It was autumn, and he knew that winter was not far off. They were walking along one day when Napi looked over a ridge and saw 4 big buffalo bulls lying on the prairie grass. He dodged out of sight, and he told Sinupa, the Kit Fox, what he had seen. He knew that there was no way he could creep up on them, so he thought for a while, trying to find a way that he might trick them. At last he said to Sinupa, "My little brother, I can only think of one way to get those bulls. This is my plan, and if you agree to it, I will pluck all the fur off you except for one tuft at the end of your tail. Then you will go over the hill and walk up and down inside of those bulls, and you will seem so funny that they will laugh themselves to death." Sinupa, the Kit Fox, wasn't very keen on the idea, but he could not suggest anything better, so he reluctantly agreed. So Napi plucked him clean except for the ball at the end of his tail. Then Sinupa, Kit Fox, did as he was told. He paraded up and down on the ridge in front of the resting bulls. He pranced and played around and walked on his hind legs and went through all kinds of antics. When the bulls saw him, they were startled at first and stood up as if he was ready to flee. But curious, they stopped to watch, not knowing what to make of him. Then they began to laugh, a titter at first and then roar of a merriment. One by one they convulsed in laughter and fell down exhausted, and they died. Napi came out of hiding and began to butcher that buffalo, eat. "Ah, little brother," he said to Kit Fox, "you did splendidly. I don't wonder that the bulls laughed themselves to death. I nearly died myself as I watched you from the hill. You look very funny." As he spoke, Napi skinned the buffalo, the eeny, cut up the meat to take back to camp. All this time he kept praising the Sinupa, Kit Fox, for his wonderful performance. Meanwhile, the weather was getting colder, and a few snowflakes began to swirl into the air. Kit Fox, the Sinupa, said nothing. His back was humped, his teeth were chattered with the cold. A wind sprang up from the north, and the snow became heavier as the temperature continued to drop. So Napi continued to talk to his younger brother, the Sinupa, while he was working. But the Sinupa did not reply. He just stood there. Finally, Napi stopped his stretch and said, "It's getting pretty cold." "Well, we don't care. We have got all our winter's meat. We have nothing to do but feast and dance and sing until spring. Mutoi." So Sinupa did not reply. Napi became angry and shouted, "Why don't you answer me? Don't you hear me talking to you?" When Kit Fox said nothing, Napi walked over to him, saying, "Can't you speak?" And he roughly gave him a shove. Next thing, Kit Fox, the Sinupa, fell over. His jaw was jutting out and his teeth shining. He was frozen solid from the cold. Napi said, "My younger brother has always been a laughter." And that one froze on his twisted face. And then
I just had, the loud drumming sound. And that's why they called it Stukimiakaetapiskoi. Or Stukimi Tumboy. Stukimiako is what she said because of the, and so I was thinking, okay, she's probably making reference to, a long time ago they might have heard, the dinosaurs trampling, moving around, and that's all they heard, and they just have been scattered out, Stukimiakaetapiskoi. Yeah.
And then the other one I was going to mention too was because the Red Deer River goes right through this dinosaur park.
Yeah.
And I was telling JC, we called it Bunogasa.
Yeah, Bunogasa.
Red elk or elk oak or Ochre River.
Yeah, Punuka Elk River. Punuka Elk and Sisachta is a river. Elk River.
Okay.
Yeah, Elk River. Punuka Sisachta.
Okay. All
Just
right.
recently with the I guess when the Europeans come over, the settlers, one of them had what they were little red deer,
Okay.
and he introduced them to the area, so the people there called it, red deer.
So anyway, the Bonogasa side, I was sharing this with JC. Could you quickly tell us, that's when those two elks were headbutting that cottonwood tree.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah. I have the recording of Old Man Joe telling the story of Anya Mami Tochtitsa, which is Omo Dokskui in the forest to the north of us, to the west of us, I should say. Anitos. Anyway, he said that there was a Naut, a Punuka, and his wife, that female, and that, Aksamituman is they were together. Kitumat at the Isayipumapil. They were, things were not going right for them. So the Punuka started to accuse her of infidelity, and that. They, just both made their way up along Amos Suyistaki. So I imagine it's the foothills that they went, the Suyistaki. So they made their way up to that area, and that's where, the the cottonwood trees were big, and that for some reason he missed you, and she told him, well, if you can, hit that tree, and if you can hit that tree and shake it, then you're right. So the Punuka, the king said, okay, I will, run to it, and then I will hit it, and it's going to shake, and that means I'm right. I can't remember how he said, all these that you're accusing me, anyway. Yeah, that's he, anyway, I'm trying to remember what Old Man Joe said. But anyway, so, he did it first, nothing. You couldn't move it, couldn't even, not even the leaves moved. She sang a song, and then he said that she shook the tree and that, and everything fell down, and that, and, So ito money. She was right. Or things that she was getting accused were not, true. So she, therefore, the things were changed, and that's why, on the Okan is the Sundance. In the lodge when they're getting transferred, the headdress, they always have a cottonwood branch in there. That's to symbolize that. Yeah, it's really interesting in that, what, the story of that. So that's why, then it was called, Honoka after them river. Honoka is Sasakta.
Oh, yeah, Sasakta, yeah. And that makes sense, because I'm trying to figure out where would the red come in,
Yeah, well, it was those Waka Waka things.
Yeah.
They were pets. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
in the Ogan,
When the person
that chicken, what do you call it? That chicken one. That's a cottonwood, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it is also represented when she's being transferred. She's transferring her, after she does her 4-day fast, then she's, that setting and that where, the public can see. That's where they have that in there.